The smoke has cleared. A lone panzer force sits burning, its crew either dead or captured. But beside it, an American M4 Sherman, dented but intact, pivots its turret, ready for the next threat. For decades, the story of this confrontation has been defined by one number: the size of the gun, the thickness of the armor, German superiority, American quantity. But that assessment is fundamentally flawed, because when that panzer commander desperately tried to call for support, his radio spat back only static. When the Sherman commander called out the target and ordered a flank, his voice was crystal clear, inside his tank, and across the entire company. The real secret weapon of the Sherman wasn't its gun, or its engine. It was an inconspicuous grey box in the turret bustle, the world's most advanced wartime radio system. A piece of technology that the German High Command never grasped, and an invisible advantage that changed the war. The philosophy of blitzkrieg, lightning war, was born from speed, maneuver, and coordinated shock. Ironically, the Germans were pioneers of putting radios in every tank, recognizing that command flags and messengers were too slow for a mobile war. Early in the war, during the sweeping victories across France in 1940, German tanks, particularly command vehicles, had basic two-way communication, FUG-5, allowing tactical flexibility. This was far ahead of the French and British. However, as the war dragged on, the initial advantage stagnated. The German radio sets were bulky, used amplitude modulation, AM, technology, and were still often reserved primarily for platoon leaders and command tanks. The crucial German error was twofold: technical complacency and doctrinal rigidity. German tank design, while focusing on incredible guns and armor like the Tiger and Panther, still required a dedicated radio operator in the hull to manage the finicky AM radios. This separation meant that the tank commander, TC, had to relay tactical information to the radio operator, who then transmitted it to other units. This added critical seconds of delay. Furthermore, German doctrine, despite its early innovation, became increasingly centralized and slow to adapt in the face of resource shortages. Quality was prioritized over quantity, leading to over-engineered, difficult-to-produce equipment. Across the ocean, the American approach was different. The U.S. Army's post-WWI experience taught them that reliable communications were paramount. By the time the M4 Sherman was designed, the SCR-508 radio set was standardized. This wasn't just a radio, it was a revolution. It used frequency modulation, FM, a far superior technology for short-range mobile use, providing clear, static-free voice quality. Every single Sherman tank was fitted with it, making every vehicle a potential command node. This commitment to widespread, reliable communication would define the battlefield. The conflict between the two systems was not immediately apparent to the German forces. Their focus was on the gun duel. They saw the Sherman as a thin-skinned target, easily knocked out by the Panther's long 75mm or the Tiger's devastating 88mm. They were right about the hardware, but completely wrong about the tactics. The first major clash where this communications advantage became evident was in North Africa, 1943. While the initial engagements were brutal for the Americans, the seeds of tactical superiority were sown. The American platoon leader could speak directly to his subordinate tanks, all the while monitoring the company and battalion net. A single commander could instantly call out a newly spotted panzer threat, assign targets, and order evasive maneuvers, all in real time. This was known as tank platoon drill and was practiced until it was second nature. Compare this to the German reality. The C2 lag, a German TC spots a threat, shouts an order to the radio operator in the hull, who then tunes the finicky AM radio, prone to drift and static, and attempts to transmit the message. The entire process introduced a life-threatening delay of 5 to 10 seconds compared to the American TC, who was already issuing orders. The fog of static, German AM transmissions were easily disrupted by engine noise, terrain, and even weather. As tank battles intensified, the airwaves often became a cacophony of white noise and fading voices. American FM, while short-range, was practically immune to this battlefield noise. ensuring crystal-clear commands were heard every time. The one-eared platoon. In many German platoons, only the commander's tank could transmit, the rest could only receive. If the commander's tank was disabled, the entire platoon was instantly decapitated, unable to warn others or call for help, often relying on visual flags in the smoke of battle. Every single American Sherman, by contrast, had two-way FM radio. If the platoon leader went down, the next most senior TC immediately took command and the net remained active. This difference in coordination allowed the Shermans to operate with a speed and flexibility that baffled their opponents. German commanders expected the predictable, rigid attacks they were accustomed to fighting. Instead, they were met with fluid, coordinated strikes. A platoon of Shermans could execute a maneuver called the L-ambush, or wolfpack tactic, using their speed to flank a heavy Tiger, concentrating 4 or 5 guns on the thin side or rear armor before the Tiger commander could even finish yelling the bearing to his radio operator. The American advantage was also psychological. Crew comfort was built in. The SCR-508 included a reliable intercom system, allowing the TC to speak clearly and calmly to his driver, gunner, and loader, maintaining crew morale and situational awareness that was difficult to replicate in the cramped, noisy, and often isolated environment of a German tank. The combined effect of superior communication and doctrine was a fundamental shift in armored warfare dynamics. While the German tanks individually could often withstand more punishment, the attrition rate of the American armored divisions was surprisingly sustainable. They often lost the first tank in a close engagement, but the ability of the remaining 3 or 4 to instantly coordinate and overwhelm the isolated German heavy tank with concentrated fire often meant an overall victory. This invisible advantage was a critical factor in the Normandy breakout and the subsequent dash across France. The American armored units could maintain formation and command integrity while moving rapidly, a feat impossible for the slower, more rigidly controlled German units who would often lose contact with one another when attempting high-speed maneuvers. The German High Command never truly grasped the nature of the American radio superiority. Their intelligence often focused on gun calibers and armor thickness, convinced that American production was simply building larger numbers of inferior tanks. They couldn't perceive the invisible layer of electronic dominance that was enabling their defeat. In a strange twist, the Germans were so focused on signal security that their own complexity and reliance on AM worked against them, while the American FM signal was too short-range and common to warrant the focused attention of signal intelligence. The legacy of the SCR-508 is simple. It established the doctrine of modern armored C2. Post-war analysis by every major power, including a defeated Germany, affirmed the American principle. Every vehicle must be a fully connected node. The instantaneous communication of the Sherman became the gold standard for tank design globally, leading directly to the advanced C2 systems found in today's M1 Abrams and Leopard 2 main battle tanks. The history of the M4 Sherman is often unfairly summarized as a story of a vulnerable tank overcoming superior German armor through sheer numbers. But the real lesson is not about quantity. It's about quality of integration. In war, the true force multiplier is not always visible on the schematic. It's the ability to think and act faster than your opponent. The German tanker's vision was literal. He saw the enemy's armor and gun. The American tanker's vision was virtual. He saw the entire battlefield, transmitted instantly into his headset, shared with his crew, and coordinated across his platoon. The SCR-508 was a quiet, unglamorous victory. It didn't punch a hole through a Tiger's frontal plate, but it ensured the Tiger was never fighting on fair terms. It ensured that the enemy was always a step behind, always isolated, and always overwhelmed by a coordinated response they could neither anticipate nor counter. The story of the Sherman's radio is a powerful testament to the idea that in war, as in life, the ability to communicate clearly, consistently, and instantly often triumphs over brute strength. It's the moment when the good enough quantity, backed by superior technology and doctrine, becomes the invisible, decisive quality.